this campaign more than anything is a calling card for us, right? And we're now as equally at the table as any of the other parts of the organization.
Yeah, I think most marketers out there can probably relate to this if you've had any kind of successful program, and that is the internal demand for what we do has just gone through the roof. So be careful for what you wish for.
People trust people over brands. If you're a marketing leader looking for ways to position your people on LinkedIn in order to boost sales and recruitment, please take Fungi's social selling assessment. It's free, it's 5 minutes, and you'll find out if your team is ready to stand out in the market and win your biggest client of the year, just like some of our clients have, through Fungi's social selling bootcamp. Check out the link in the bio and see if you're ready. So we've got Oliver R. Scott here with us in the studio in Chicago, and we've got Lori Hayes. Lori gave us away from London virtually. And both of you guys lead marketing functions at Cushman and Wakefield, which is one of the largest corporate real estate companies in the world. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So, you bet. Thanks for being here. So, we'll talk about business stuff and we'll talk about the marketing stuff, but we have to get to know you a little bit. So, Oliver, asking a question about Lori. What's one thing that maybe his colleagues might not know about him or might find interesting or even surprising?
I mean, he's a man with a very gentle soul. I think a lot of people, meet Laurie for the first time and go, "Wow, this guy's terrifying." He is. Yeah. He's put up walls, and my mission over the last year and a half has really been to break down those walls and expose him for the soft, cuddly gent that he is. So. Yeah. I think that's it. And he does a lot to kind of build up those walls. Riding a motorcycle,
Right.
I think it's such a great way of just going, what, I'm rugged. I might be in marketing, but I'm dangerous.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll testify to that. I think the first time I met him virtually, he did one of these, just to kind of let me know, where I sat, and so
it's actually because he's a germaphobe, doesn't like shaking hands. So
right. That's just a got it. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Lori, what about you? Anything that colleagues may or may not know about Oliver that they might find surprising or interesting?
Very similar. Oliver's considered the bad boy of marketing at Cushman and Wakefield, but he's really very wholesome. And
the bad boy of marketing. I think you have a coffee cup that says that.
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, when I was cuddling my 2-year-old, she knocked it out of my hand, and so that kind of broke down that.
Authenticity is important in marketing these days, right? So while we have this sort of brand of being a kind of a badass or a bad boy, it's important to be vulnerable too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that this is going to be a very authentic conversation, the way that it's going so far. Let's do a quick snapshot of Cushman and I'll start with you, Oliver. If you're not living in this world, you might think you guys sell skyscrapers and warehouses and stuff. But what is it that you're selling, or what's the value that sort of you're adding to the world?
For sure. So we're a commercial real estate company, and by that I mean we do everything but own buildings, right? Yeah. So we do everything from the agency side, the buying and selling side. We help tenants find new office space or new industrial space or across a range of assets. We also do the ongoing maintenance and really kind of split it between what we consider services and then what we consider kind of the advisory side. And we're global, so we are 55,000 employees, operate in pretty much every market around the world. We do everything from residential, multifamily, the person who opens the door for you as you walk into your apartment building, all the way through to transportation, all the way through to retail, all the way through to office, and so on and so forth. And then kind of our role within that is on the marketing side, engaging both the investor audience and then also what we would term the occupier or the tenant audience. And it's interesting, commercial real estate is a relationship-driven industry. It's typically, certainly here in the US, brokerage-led. And so as a marketer, that's a really unique experience because we're supplementing the relationships that a lot of our teams already have.
And Lori, within that sort of large pie, there's the GOS team, and that's kind of we're going to be talking about this sort of unique sort of campaign that you guys ran. But help us understand, I guess, what GOS is, the role that they play.
So GOS stands for Global Occupier Services. It's one of the largest businesses within Cushman and Wakefield. And this part of the firm looks after really the world's largest corporates. So think Fortune 500 companies. And those companies are global. They've got a very large real estate footprint. They've got buildings all over the world, different asset types, whether it's office space or industrial real estate as well. And really, these contracts are typically outsourced for as long as 5 to 7 years. And there can be as many as several thousand people at Cushman and Wakefield working on any one account at one time.
You're not making widgets.
Yeah.
It's actually the people and the expertise, right? That other clients are buying, right?
100%. Fundamentally, we are a professional services company, right? So there's no product. It's a range of services, and I think that idea of what that means from a marketing implication is really interesting. And the trouble is often that we find with a lot of the B2B marketing conversation is it orients largely around SaaS providers, right? Where there is a certain way that you move a client or prospect through the marketing funnel, and you know there are clear data-led touch points all the way through that, and you can kind of really have that linear journey. I think what we find is that none of this is linear. All of this is multi touch point over, as Laurie was saying, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting from our side. Very difficult to measure. Very difficult to kind of really bake in a standardized process. Right. It's a lot more around trying things, putting out the best work, and we'll get on to talk about some of that work in a moment. Putting that out, and then really having a mix of both qualitative and kind of the quantitative side from the people who are actually there speaking to these prospects on a daily basis, going, is this working? How do we continue to orient and get better in that kind of iterative process of improvement?
You guys did something different. Laurie, how would you sort of summarize this work that you did, this campaign? What was it, and I guess what made it different?
The Team Around the Table podcast was our attempt to showcase the talent, the people, the culture of working with Cushman and Wakefield when you outsource a large real estate portfolio. But the main challenge is that, and you'll find this in most professional services industries, that firms like ours, along with our main global competitors, are all capable of delivering for the client. We all have the platform, we all have the expertise, we all have smart, capable people. And often within these industries, people are transient, right? They move between the different companies. So we are selling people, but more than that, we're selling culture, the soul of an organization, that those things that are enduring and not transient. And really our job as the marketing team is to bring those things to life. And really the purpose of this campaign was to bring the soul of the organization to life in a very human and authentic way. That was kind of the premise.
And so what we did when we were thinking about what topics to cover in that was really split it into kind of two parts. There's the practical element of what is it like outsourcing your real estate, right? What should you look for? How do you judge the right account team? And then there are the subject matter expertise areas. So brought everyone together. We've recorded some remotely because obviously we're a team around the world. It's the Global Occupier Services team, and then some here in Chicago. And then alongside that, we felt there was an opportunity to do some social media work with that team, right? Upskill them through training, which is something, again, that we did through you guys, as well as provide them with chopped up clips that they could use, both from the podcast themselves, but also kind of uniquely shot. We have always traditionally done a very good job of telling people what to think or helping them get to that point of, and by that I mean, best in class research, right? Trends. I think maybe where we haven't done this kind of thing before is really help them understand what to feel. Like what's the emotional response you want to a partner like us? Because it's about, do you feel safe? Do you feel brave with the partner that you select? And that doesn't come from an individual. It doesn't come from scale or technology. It comes from culture. And so we really felt that video was such a secret weapon for us when we think about how do you communicate that. It's really hard to do that with a written word.
You kind of did a couple things. One was sort of, a podcast, like what people are watching right now. And then you also did another component where similar short form video where you're actually using their individual employee personal brands to share, to create content, kind of do it for you content where they could then post those clips on their own. So it was a pretty highly coordinated thing that you guys did.
Over the years, there's been real attempts to try and get individuals within the firm to use their social profiles more, do that sort of social selling part. And it's been successful in pockets, but I think what this did was provide them with the secret sauce, which is that great quality content, right? It's the oil in the engine, and we've seen that has been transformative. So not just providing them with the best practice, not just the theory, not just the training, which was kind of a helpful part of that, but also hey, we're going to give you all of this social content to share on with your networks. And I think that was the missing piece for us.
It's not like you guys just like posted videos, like, hey, everybody shoot some videos, we'll post it, and it'll be great. We'll see what happens. So Lori, what was sort of this, a couple of the key steps there?
So having a really strong brand story and narrative was critical to the success of the campaign. It wasn't going to be enough to just say, hey, we've got the best team around the table here. We really needed a compelling story. And I think critical to the storytelling through all of this was having Fungi and having that external perspective outside of the organization to which we are so close to really work through what our compelling story was. And so it wasn't just us saying, hey, we've got the best team around the table. It was really developing a story arc that built upon themes of talent and culture and trust and partnership, right on through to transparency and what the ongoing relationship of working with Cushman and Wakefield would feel like if you selected us as your partner.
You're building a house, you need a blueprint before you just start building stuff and start making stuff.
It all was aligned. And I think often, or in other organizations that I've worked in, there would be that disconnect, right? The leadership is saying, hey, this is what we stand for. And then the folks on the ground who are talking to clients every day are going, well,
that's not
exactly right. And so what we're finding is this isn't just a GOS thing. This is a firm-wide culture. It's amazing how this firm has created that culture organically. And so I think that was great that came out of that. And so what then the challenge from our side is how do you get that in front of the people who are going to be on camera, get them to soak in that for a whilst not losing the authenticity, and so not scripting it out and going, okay, the first thing you're going to say is going to be about our entrepreneurial spirit, the next thing is going to be about your scrappiness, and so on and so forth. It was really getting them to just to ingest it and then to say it in their own words. And what I think was great, and again, not to blow too much smoke, but
let's do
some smoke blowing. Sure. So
blow some smoke.
So I think what was great on during those recording sessions was the right questions, right? Not pre-preparing them too much, but going, hey, like in your own words, talk about an example when X happened, or how do you think about this? And that worked really well. We had Ian at the time, yourself as well, and us, and it felt like a really nice integrated team together, just with this talent who understandably were nervous. Like for some of them, Laurie, you can get attest to this. Like some of them, it was their first time on camera, really nervous, really kind of worried about how they're going to come across, and knowing that clients are going to be watching this, and so to keep them calm, to ask the right questions, then to get them to become exponents of the approach and the messaging we had talked through was a kind of almost a magic trick.
One of the additional benefits that was kind of unforeseen, and all the marketers out there can probably relate to this, but I work with a set of very senior business leaders who they think about marketing for a few hours every month, if I'm lucky, but really taking a couple of days out of everybody's calendar to immerse ourselves in the storytelling and to really take a step back and say, what story are we trying to tell around this business, allowed us to coalesce the business around a story, but also have business leaders kind of taking a proactive role in the narrative that we're telling. And really there's been a chain reaction benefit to greater engagement in marketing and the stories that we want to tell the marketplace on an ongoing basis.
Marketing has increasingly been coming to the table as that trusted partner.
Right.
And I think now when times continue to get better, that seat isn't going to go away. And it's been one of those sort of silver linings of maybe a kind of a challenging last few years is that realization that marketing is just as much enabler of new business opportunity and client retention and everything else as it is someone to organize golf days and do slides, which maybe is a traditional view in our industry of what marketing does.
I think you're a sophisticated marketing organization, and I've worked with a lot of different marketing organizations in the sense that, you've got a robust team, it's global, there's a lot of data pumping through that you're turning into nuggets and insights and trying to help your clients that way. To go from data, trends, and then be let's do stuff that makes people feel good. And even to get the organization to your own organization to buy into that, authenticity is important. It's actually going to be one of the reasons why people decide to work with us. I mean, was that intuitive as you're having those conversations internally with people? They get that? Or was it kind of like a hard sell to get people on board?
It wasn't a hard sell, and I'd love to take credit for the idea of making people and talent the focus of our campaign. But really, it was a response to an ask from the business. It was salespeople and business leadership who spend the most time with our clients. And the reason that we win these mandates from Fortune 500 companies is not because we've got the best technology. It's not even because we're the biggest player in the market. It's because people enjoy working with us. So it was really our senior leadership that came to the table with that voice of customer perspective that allowed us to build a campaign around them.
Going into this recording and this conversation, I was really thinking about how to describe what it was that we just did, right? And I think this is something that you kind of posed to us. The similarity to automotive came to mind, and it's this idea of when you're buying a car, you can look at the spec sheets all you want. You can watch YouTube videos of people giving reviews and get that kind of the quantitative value of the thing that you want to buy. Until you test drive it, you don't really know, right? You don't know how it's going to resonate with you emotionally as well as physically. And I think with professional services, you obviously can't test drive, right? We're not going to go, okay, well, we'll do this one building for you, and then if you like it, then we'll do a contract. You have to find a different way of getting that emotional response, and I think that's what we've achieved through this campaign. We have one of the best research teams in professional services. We're still doing that stuff. But what we've done is we've added the test drive, or we've added the free trial, which is, hey, you get to watch the people who you will be working with if you sign with us. You get to watch them on video for 20, 30 minutes or in short 2 or 3 minute clips on your LinkedIn feed, talking from the heart about what drives them, what gets them up in the morning, and also what their skill sets are. And I think that is an exciting opportunity for us as an industry to do more of that stuff.
One of the reasons we landed on the campaign strategy was that it's a long game, right? This is not a quick sales cycle. It's a very long process. And by having such a vast library of content and themes and personalities to showcase, we were positioned to develop those relationships, partly through social media, but more broadly, and support that long sales cycle in which many dozens of people are involved in making the decision. There's not a single buyer. The buying committee can be as many as 20 or 30 people. And so we really needed a very broad campaign strategy to reach all of those individuals in an effective way.
And it's probably less like buying a car, more like buying a motorcycle, which I feel like Lori knows really well, right, as I understand it. What kind of motorcycle do you ride?
I've got a brand new Yamaha MT-10 on my driveway as we speak.
Whoa. Bad boy of marketing. Bad boys of marketing. You guys have your own little team.
Yeah. It's like an 80s buddy cop movie.
Yeah. I can see the movie trailer now.
Yeah.
I want to make that movie trailer.
Yeah, that's it.
Can we summarize the results somehow? I know this is a long game.
What we have seen, and as we discussed, part of the strategy was enabling individuals to build their own profile and their own personal brands outside of brand Cushman and Wakefield. That was really inherent to the distribution strategy. And what we've seen from those individuals across the program is hundreds of thousands of LinkedIn impressions, individuals receiving literally hundreds of new connection requests. And so we've seen massive reach from the content through that distributed approach. But more qualitatively, we are hearing voice of customer from all areas of our business, that the messaging and the content format and really the high level of production has been recognized as really a different kind of touch in the marketplace that isn't often seen in our industry.
One of the things we've been able to benefit from is the new LinkedIn thought leadership ads, where as a firm we can promote individuals' posts, which is something that's kind of a relatively new within the last 6 months or so. So it's a really nice kind of aligning of the stars there, and it's interesting to see LinkedIn clearly pushing the benefit of individuals' posts. And we've seen this, right? So we have about 1.3 million followers on our corporate LinkedIn, but an individual post unboosted is not going to get anything more than 30, 40, 50,000 impressions. What you're seeing though is a multiplier effect when individuals post, and they may only be connected to 1,000, 2,000 people, but they're getting 5, 10, 15,000 organic impressions. And then when we put money behind that as well, we see that just explode. And so clearly LinkedIn knows this stuff is working, and so I think that's been an interesting alignment from our side, and taking advantage of some of those new opportunities has been great.
People might be familiar with Edelman and their trust barometer, and they put this report out every year. And one of the biggest things in this last report that came out was just that, like, is this idea of like people more and more are following, looking to the individual's personal brands on LinkedIn or on whatever the social media platform, and that's where the audience is going. And so like to not tap into that is kind of almost silly. You have to take advantage of that. And then obviously they share it as an individual, but then the team reshares it or likes it, comments, and it gets seen across not just one profile, but the whole team too.
And what I'd also throw in is, for a firm of our size, you can't underestimate the impact of internal distribution, internal engagement, and appetite. And we made this point earlier on that part of our challenge has always been getting buy-in from the business, moving beyond maybe what's seen as traditional roles in marketing. And we have, since this campaign started just a couple of months ago, we've seen most of our major service lines come to us and go, hey, this looks great, can we do it for our service line? And we've also recently done, our global management team in New York last week, which you guys were involved with, recording all of them, all 15 of our most senior leaders in a 55,000 person organization, recording this kind of content, which will be distributed in a similar way. So for us, for our personal brands, it's been great. For how we are advancing marketing at Cushman, it's been great. And so I think, we're both getting that external validation of the value of this through both the data and also emails coming through going, hey, this is being noticed, but also internally as well. And we treat those as kind of maybe not quite of equal importance, but pretty close.
I think there were a few additional unforeseen kind of knock-on benefits to the format that we produced this content in as well. So just doing that podcast style format, a few of the episodes we co-created with our clients, and just the act of doing that enabled us to capture first-hand voice of customer insight. It allowed us to have a lot of fun with the clients in the process. Like the whole process of creating the content it was fun. But more than that, capturing that voice of customer, actually being intentional about crafting our story, kind of gave a framework to our thinking process around marketing that will extend way beyond the campaign. So just the act of building the campaign has really given us benefits that are going to endure much beyond the life of the campaign itself.
What are some of the anecdotes that you guys have heard from people? We're
hearing that the content that's being seen and absorbed, particularly on LinkedIn, is forming a part of the decision-making process as clients are going through that long tail process. And then internally, we've just heard some great anecdotes as well. My favorite being from one member of our team who said, the campaign feels like the very heartbeat of our organization, which for me was awesome. Cherry on the cake.
This campaign, more than anything, is a calling card for us, right? And we're now as equally at the table as any of the other parts of the organization.
Yeah, I think one of the other benefits, and most marketers out there can probably relate to this, if you've had any kind of successful program, and that is the internal demand for what we do has just gone through the roof. So be careful for what you wish for, I guess.
Yeah. What's one thing you learned that you would maybe change?
What I would say is that it's very tempting, particularly when you start to work with great partners like you guys. It's very tempting for internal stakeholders to get the message that that a lot of this can be outsourced, and that we don't need the headcount internally. As long as you're working with the right partners, you just have one or two people individually who are great performers who are able to corral the right partners and get the right results. I don't think you can underestimate how much internal bandwidth you need to make this thing a success. It's not as simple as capturing a bunch of video and then throwing it out to the world.
Right.
And so my recommendation to anyone embarking on something like this is make sure you have carved out enough time, enough headspace, that you have the buy-in, and that you have the promise of future resource if this goes well, whether that's financial or headcount. To continue to build on that success. And the worst thing that we could do right now is to end it there, right? Like we've captured a great first phase of content, but that's just the beginning.
My key lesson learned was a lesson that I already knew, but it's always worth learning again. And that is, as a head of marketing, I work with a lot of different agencies for a whole heap of reasons and for a range of different purposes. But the importance and benefit of having an agency partner who understands your organization, listens to what you're telling them, and gets into the trenches with you to strategize, but acting as part of your organization, really understanding it. When you work with an agency who's not able to do that, it becomes so obvious because the work doesn't look like you, the work doesn't feel like you. And so through this project and through Fungi Media, we clearly had a partner who were A, fun to work with, but B, really understood us and understood what we were trying to achieve. And I think that's why the product that came out of the campaign was so authentic, because it really was just truthful to who we are.
I don't know how we would have done it without a partner like you guys. I think with video becoming more and more easy to capture, I think the temptation can often be either to do this yourself or do it on the cheap. And I think there is so much more than just the channel, just the asset type. It's about everything that goes before it. It's about asking the right questions, which we talked about before. It's around doing the messaging. It's around coalescing around what the real objectives are and how do you slice and dice what you're getting together to achieve that objective. And I don't think everyone gets that.
It does take a partnership. I mean, I do feel like we were in the trenches together. All right, this is a very serious question. What is a word or phrase that we should stop using in the workplace? What comes to mind?
The one that comes to mind is circle back for me.
Circle back.
Circle back.
Is it the shape?
Maybe it's the shape. Maybe it's the shape.
It's the circle.
I think it's the circle. I think because the circles don't go anywhere.
They're just it's never ending, right?
Exactly. So what are we doing? What are we doing, Matt?
I think we're just we're never moving forward.
Yeah.
We're caught in this vicious circle.
Exactly.
So what would we say, you think, instead? Would we change the circle forward, or just get a different shape involved?
Maybe a different shape.
Okay.
Or maybe not a shape. It's a line, right? So where are we? How do we pull ourselves up the string of life towards the mountaintop of ambition?
Yeah. I like how many different metaphors you're able to put in.
Yeah, exactly.
The string of life and the mountaintop of ambition. Okay. Yeah. I feel like that's better. We should say that instead of circle back.
The string of life. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on the string of life. I mean, you've been a great string of life partner.
Did we just start a podcast?
I think we did.
Lori, what about you?
I would say leverage. Leverage this, leverage that. Leverage is used too much.
I feel like it could be a pop song. Leverage this, leverage that.
I mean, now it is.
Yeah.
So next time we meet, you're going to flesh that out.
I'm going to produce this song.
Lay down a track.
I'm going to need to get your guys' vocals in the mix. And then it's going to be a hit. And then we'll be famous for different reasons.
Yeah. Fired and famous.
Yeah, but yeah, we might not have jobs anymore, but it'll be worth it. I think.
Who needs jobs when you've got motorbikes?
No, and that's the perfect way to close out. Lori, thank you so much for joining us. Oliver, thank you guys. Really appreciate the partnership. Grateful for you being here and to continue to be able to work with you guys. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Eu fango.